It has over 34 unique tree species, 165 bird species that only happen on one side or the other of the river. I'm Gabriel, I'm a senior global studies major, and I'm from the Amazon. I'm from the region that's going to be affected by what we're talking about. And we're going to talk today about saving the Tapajós River and dam construction in the Amazon forest. Hope everybody got pizza and your name tags. So the reason I have these name tags that don't have your name written on it is because the word Obuishi means friend or ally in the Munduruku native language. And that what I want to establish here is that it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, you're their friend and ally now. And that's what I want you to be by the end of this presentation. So let's start by some basic information. The Amazon has approximately 2 million square miles. It is 300,000, so it's bigger than the European Union and 8 times the size of Texas, for you to just imagine how big it is. And that's only the Brazilian part of it. It has a population of 24 million people from the 2010 census, and it is 12% of the national population of Brazil. And out of these 24 million people, almost 70% live in cities, what a lot of times is not expected, would not be expected from the Amazon. Out of these whole 2 million square miles, 220 square miles have already been deforested as of 2014. That size is bigger than France, so for you to have an idea, so we're going to compare a lot. So we're going to talk about the biodiversity of the area. It has 10% of all the plants in the world. It's total 30,000 different plant species. It has over 5,000 tree species, while North America has only 650. So you can see how different that is. It has the largest freshwater reserve in the world. It is 20% of all the fresh water in the world is in the Amazon. And the biggest water reserve out of the Amazon, it's actually able to supply over 100 times water for the whole world population. Okay, cool. So now we're going to narrow down into the Tapajós Basin. That's the place I want you to care about after this. It is around 295,000 square miles. It is bigger than Texas. It is home to a population of around 820,000 people. And out of these people, there are 10 different indigenous native groups. So there is a lot of diversity, ethnic diversity there. There is the largest presence of endemic and new species being found all the time. It has been found in 34 unique tree species in the basin, 165 birds that only happen on one side or the other of the river, 84 endemic fish species, 2,000 butterfly species, and over 16 new reptile species have been found on studies by the people proposing the construction of dams along the river. Also, it's being threatened by the construction of several dams right now. These dams would flood an area of 145 square miles. That area is bigger than the Greater London, Paris, and Amsterdam combined. You can see how big that is. Also, the halting of rivers would literally suffocate any water species because the level of oxygen in the water would be reduced to extremely low levels. So now we're going to talk about the Munduruku Indians. So the term Indians is problematic in the United States and also in Brazil. However, the Munduruku indigenous people chose to identify themselves that way in English for whenever they are treating with international bodies and international organizations. What they are doing right now is that they are weaving resistance. So the Munduruku Indians Weaving Resistance is the name of the documentary we're going to watch. It was filmed on late 2013 and early 2014 in a Munduruku village, and it shows the growth of resistance on that population and how they are currently fighting for their rights. 12,000 people only on that area would be displaced by the largest of these dams, without counting the other indigenous populations and the other hydroelectric dams. This sign is one of their main campaigns in partnership with Greenpeace that they're calling Dam the Dam. Keep the Tapajós River alive, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to galvanize support and create this momentum not only in Brazil, but around the whole world. So, pull it up. Can someone please turn on the lights? Cool. So we watched this video. I hope you learned a lot about this issue. This is what's going on, and you can see how these populations are being extremely disrespected and how the government, who should care for them, it's not actually doing its job. So now, let's talk about the government's position so you can understand why they are doing all of this. So the government says that there are constant blackouts in Brazil, which is true. In 2009, businesses lost over 3% of their sales revenues due to some 1.3 power outages every month, in average, sometimes more, sometimes less. Energy security is necessary for countries to develop, of course. The cost of the 2001-2002 electricity rationing were of over $23 billion in less than 10 months. Also, only the largest of the dams being built in that region would provide 15% of the electricity demand for the whole country of Brazil. So that's their argument. However, they also say that dams are economically and socially efficient. They say that hydropower would move a lot of capital, a lot of money into those regions, and it would improve and increase their development. Also, we would improve the current economic situation of Brazil that is going through an extremely bad economic crisis. They also say that municipalities close to these hydroelectric dams, they have benefited and experienced extremely high social development. So now we're going to analyze the city of Tucuruí, where this dam was built. It's the fourth largest dam in the world. We can see that between 1991, 5 years after the construction of the dam, in 2010, it grew a lot, especially on education. However, if looking at the ideal longevity, life expectancy, income, and education, it's still far from being perfect. In numbers, the percentage of children between ages 5 and 6 in school doubled from 40.89% to over 87.27%. So that is one of the gains. Life expectancy grew from around 65 years to over 73. And income grew from $80 monthly to around $167 monthly. So that is how greatly it has improved that region. However, now we're going to talk about the reality of those dams. Some things that happen that the government usually doesn't talk about. The first one is that we have large displaced populations. Only from the Munduruku people, we would have 12,000 people being displaced only by one of the dams. Also, in the Tucuruí city, the people that were displaced, a lot of them were forced to live in the islands created by the artificial lake. And there, they didn't have any sanitation, electricity, or access to potable water whatsoever. Since we have all these people most likely moving into bigger urban centers with precarious services, we have an increase in urban violence. In 2010, the city of Tucuruí, with 97,000 people, experienced 58 homicides. The city of Altamira, that we're going to talk later, with 99,000 people, experienced 48 homicides. While the city of Santarém, with almost 300,000 people, experienced only 32% because it is further away from so much movement from construction and hydroelectric dams. However, the city of Santarém is the biggest one on the region of these dams being constructed. So we could only expect that all these people flooding to the region would also lead to increase in violence in that city. Now we're going to talk specifically about Altamira. It's the city where the third largest dam in the world is being constructed right now. As of 2010, it had a population of 99,000 people. As of 2016, it actually has over 170,000 people in only these 6 years. Over 40,000 people have already been displaced by the construction of these dams, either because their lands are flooded or because they just lost their form of income due to the floodings. We saw 86 homicides in 2015 to those 170,000 people. We also saw that school failure, so kids failing in school, grew by over 40.5%, and school dropout grew by over 57%. However, only one thing stayed the same: the percentage of treated water and sewage. It is 0% up to this day. So now we're going to talk about the current state of this issue. So IBAMA, which is the environmental agency of Brazil, has denied the environmental license to São Luís do Tapajós Dam, which is the biggest dam out of these. They say that it is unconstitutional to try and displace those native populations because they have their rights guaranteed by the 1988 Constitution and by the 1973 Indigenous Statute. Also, as independent parts of the federal government have suggested over several years that they do not approve that. So they also follow the guidelines from the federal government itself, meaning that the local part of it doesn't support it. Who support it is like who are in Rio, São Paulo, and Brasilia, the bigger centers of Brazil. They are still fighting for international support from international organizations. In 2016, they actually went to Geneva, to the Human Rights Security Council in Geneva to plead for help from the UN. They also have a campaign called Save the Heart of the Amazon in partnership with Greenpeace, which you're going to be invited to sign a petition later. But they're still fighting for their land to be demarcated. Since it is an area with such extremely biodiversity and riches, a lot of times indigenous communities actually sit atop of gold or diamond reserves. So a lot of times their lands are not being demarcated. So they're still fighting for that. So ways to help. How can we here in Austin help those people there in the Amazon? The first one is signing the petition to help demarcate their land. We need 1,500,000 people to sign it. We have already over 1,300,000. So all the people that sign it are gonna help it. The more the merrier. So we need your help. Also, you can donate clothes and toys. So Jessica, over there, she is from an indigenous community in the state of Amazonas, which is next to mine. And every end of the year, she takes clothes and toys to indigenous families in need. So if you have any clothes that you don't need anymore, or toys you would like to donate, please talk to either me or her after this, or just approach me till the end of the semester, and I'm gonna be so glad if you could help. Thank you. So thank you for coming here. I'm gonna open for questions. I don't know if you have any, so.
Question. When they were working with the tree and twisting something and fluid was what was that?
That is sugar cane, actually. So they used sugar cane in the Amazon when the colonizers brought, and they work with it so they can have like sugar and other things that come from sugar.
I might have missed this, but what kind of representation do they have in concerning their problems?
So representation in Congress or in the state legislature or anything whatsoever is not existent, because most of the time, even though they vote, most of the time they're not a large enough population within the municipalities to actually elect more people to represent them. So a lot of times that is their way of fighting, protesting, closing roads, or like doing anything that they can call to actually call up attention from the government. They don't have any representation whatsoever.
And although these cities are really big, they seem relatively big, the city is tiny compared to the area of the Amazon. So the population we do have is so small, and we're trying to represent a massive area, which is hard to do in the government.
So I know you said that the group went to Geneva, but is the UN involved at all? Because would this be considered like a violation of human rights?
So yeah, so in the beginning of 2016, in March, the director of the Council for Native Rights, I might be getting that specifically name wrong, she visited Brazil and she visited those people and she wrote a report saying that Brazil is actually going backwards on all their rights and they are actually violating not only their own laws but also the laws from like international laws that guarantee those people the right to life, right to territory and everything. So she wrote, and then I can definitely send you that, but she wrote this report just saying this cannot happen. So what are you gonna do? Because the government actually sent a report saying everything's fine, everybody's happy, and then she found the opposite. So.
So what are the conditions like on these islands? How are they created? Are they just artificially like, dumped a bunch of stuff, or is it like?
Oh, so on the Tucuruí Lake, whenever they locked the gates of the hydroelectric dam, the water level just grew up, and so whatever was in the way was going to be flooded. So those islands are like the top of hills, so they became islands after that, and those people just moved in there because up to this day, most people didn't get any reparation whatsoever, so that was like their only way of surviving.
So do they only have like, how do they live like off the island?
Yeah, they gather, like hunt on like the river or the forest, and they usually go to the city itself, but it's still far away from any really contact with it. And the funniest part is that those regions around that dam didn't actually receive electricity for most of the time. So.
Did you say there's already been one dam built?
So the Tucuruí one was built in 1984 on another part of the state, but it has been used as like, see how many amazing things happen. We're gonna build more. And there's another one, the third largest in the world, that is somewhat finished already. It started being built in 2011, and it created another big movement, but the government still went ahead. So now there's another one already being built in the Telespires River that becomes the Tapajós River. So that is the current state.
So is someone documenting all the things lost? You know,
Yes. So on the first dam, 3,700 people are living on the islands. I think it was over 25,000 people were displaced by the first dam, and the second one, 40,000 people have been displaced by that as of yet. The dam that is being built already on the Tapajós Basin, I couldn't get the numbers for that because unfortunately the Brazilian government is really mysterious about that. So a lot of information is not available.
Do you know of any efforts that are being done for the sanitation?
So the state government is trying to work around that, but as of yet it hasn't really improved about that. On Altamira, where the dam is being constructed right now, there's no way, like there's not enough money to help it because it's a lot of people just flowing around for the city to actually gather more money, and the federal government is not really helping. On the Tucuruí case, they have caught up, but the sanitation levels are still really low. It's being really slow to catch up. So, thank you. So, before we end, there's like that beautiful sign that my friend made, and I would love if we could gather and take a picture with it, so I can post on social media and like show that we here are also doing that. A lot of my friends in Brazil are doing it. Whenever they go to the river, they take pictures and use the hashtag so we can use it. And you just publicize it and say that we're doing something. So if yeah, we're going. Hope everybody is showing.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
142,260 people that signed.